Hey everyone, I am super excited to introduce our next candidate for Project 1000 Hire. Today we have my dear friend Raj coming to us all the way from Daytona Beach, Florida. So Raj, first of all, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ephraim. I really appreciate your effort, to put into this project. And I think people like you are actually a big source of support at these times. I would like to personally thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you. And we're one big support network for all of each other to help each other out. So Raj, why don't you give us a brief description, a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and so we can get to know you.
Absolutely. Okay, basically, I'm from India. I was born and raised in the southern part of India. And then I completed my undergraduation in aeronautical engineering there. And then I worked for a year for a startup in India that was actually doing vacuum thermoforming for automotive and drone related stuff. Not the big parts, but we were actually working with small companies that were actually turning into big names. At that time we were working on their projects. And then I worked for a year there, and then I decided I was going to pursue higher studies. And then I applied for my master's in the United States. And then I completed my master's in unmanned and autonomous systems engineering with focus on machine learning and specifically deep reinforcement learning. So I graduated in 2019 December, and then I'm looking for career opportunities at this moment. You know,
Wow, super cool. So with learning obviously everything about machine learning AI, I'm assuming you worked on a lot of personal projects. So why don't you tell us about some type of personal accomplishment that you're super proud of?
okay, I would say the biggest accomplishment that I've personally done is when I was in my grad school, I was actually appointed as the director of engineering for the SpaceX Hyperloop competition that happened. So my role as a chief, as the director of engineering, was more of a chief engineer or an integration engineer. We had all these 10 different engineering sub-level teams. So they were all doing a great job. So my job was actually, to integrate them to make sure we were all making well-informed decisions, and also how, when you make a design decision and you actually don't, document it properly, it can actually lead to catastrophic errors, in the future. So my job was actually, making sure everything was documented, and how things proceed from, when you have to macro manage, you got to macro manage, and when you have to micromanage and you got to, delegate, you got to delegate. So my job was basically actually enforcing and enabling that. So I had the opportunity to actually work with 75 different students actually from my university. And I think that competition is actually a few years old, but we decided to participate for the first time. So, our exposure to the competition was actually pretty novice. But then I would say we really did a good job because, among the 1,000 teams that participated, we actually made it to the top 48 in the first year. And I think that is a pretty good accomplishment. And actually, the very basis for our participation in that competition was not to be very judgmental, but the competition has been won 3 years in a row by a university based in Germany. So we wanted to bring it back to the United States. That was the focus. But then, we usually face the challenge faced by a first year team. There's a lot of funding challenges. And because, Hyperloop is actually not a very, small project, we had so much to take care of. So we decided that we put that, the knowledge and the time investment that we had done, we wanted to leverage that to the next year where we actually have more focus based on our first year's participation. So my role there was actually a very big personal accomplishment for me because I think, what we did is, what we, that's how it's going to be in the future, so the first hit was actually a good one, I guess. So yeah, that was my biggest personal accomplishment, Prime.
Wow, super cool. That's really, really cool. So why don't you tell us about like a personal challenge that you overcame?
Sure. Okay, so when I was in my undergrad, my undergrad major was actually aeronautical engineering. So which actually made me a very hardware related person. I was interested, very very interested about aircraft systems. How the control surfaces of an aircraft work, and how they are actually designed to be working in very extreme temperatures. They could be extremely cold or extremely hot, but they still have to work just the same way. So I didn't really consider myself to be a software person until, you know, I decided that I was going to pursue a degree related in UAS. And so in my first semester's course, I had a coursework that was actually pretty much software related. I had to program stuff on a weekly basis, you know, for class projects. And, you know, we had deliverables, like there was a primary deliverable and then there was a supplementary deliverable every week. So which required me to constantly learn programming. And that was my first semester and the first 6 months in the United States. So I was also going through a very big cultural shock. So my biggest exposure was actually keeping up with that course. You know, I remember a lot of times I would actually feel that, you know, oh my God, have I made a bad decision to take this course right away when I came in? You know, maybe I should have taken a software course before I actually jumped into the big pool. But then I just decided to go with the flow, and trust me, those weeks were actually very hard. I had to keep up with so much work, and every weekends were actually very tiresome. But then I made that course through in very successful colors, I guess. And that was actually the reason, because at the end of my graduate school, I was actually programming for capstone projects, you know, using Python and, using machine learning libraries. But that was actually the first course where I actually found, you know, my ability to be programming, because I believe coming from a very hardware background, you know, software actually seems you could say that, you know, we are poles apart. So I just made both the poles meet for me. And I think that was actually the biggest personal challenge that I overcame, you know, by myself.
Wow. That's absolutely incredible. So we definitely know you have the ability to apply yourself and work hard. So why don't you tell us what you're looking for in your next role?
Okay, so what I personally think is, you know, science and technology actually should make life easy for people. And I believe that, you know, engineers or any professions for that matter are a means of doing that. You know, you're actually means of actually enabling, you know, making people's life better. And for my next role, I think what I'm personally expecting is to make these things work, where actually I can work on a project that, is able to give me challenges where, you know, at the end of the challenge, I'll be able to help make people's life better. You know, it could be hardware, software, but because although I have 3 years of professional experience, I would say, you know, I consider myself to be a person who always is willing to learn. You know, if I don't know, I always seek and learn. And, you know, that's what I look forward in the next role, where even if I did not know, I would still, you know, make an effort to learn and then go from there and grow.
Right, right. Wow, amazing. So first of all, Raj, I want to thank you so much for coming and joining us today. And second thing is, I want to wish you a ton of success and luck. There's no doubt in my mind that any company that's going to get you either in the hardware development or software in aerodynamics or whatever it may be, you know, autonomous vehicles, it definitely has an amazing asset and resource within you, a great teammate and hopefully and a great leader too. So I want to wish you much success. And obviously it goes without saying, anything that we can do over here, we're here to help. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ephraim. I really appreciate your help, and I wish you all good luck as well. Take care.
Thank you.